Hey there, DeepBlendArt community. Welcome back to another exciting tutorial. Today we're diving into something you've been asking for: how to create our iconic DeepBlendArt logo motion in Blender. This step-by-step guide will walk you through building a dynamic, eye-catching logo animation that's perfect for static renders or full-on motion graphics. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have the skills to craft your own stunning logo animations. Let's jump in. Hit that subscribe button and let's get blending. Let's kick things off by setting up our Blender workspace. Start by creating a new plane to act as the floor and backdrop. Scale it up to give us a nice, spacious studio-like environment. Add a slight bevel to soften the edges for a smooth, professional look. Next, import your logo. Mine's an SVG file I've prepared. Place it in the scene. Adjust its size to fit and convert it to a mesh by right-clicking and selecting Convert to Mesh. This gives us a workable 3D object to build on. Now that we have our logo mesh, let's give it some depth. Extrude the mesh along the Z-axis to create a 3D volume. To make it hollow for our animation, select the top faces and delete them to form an open container. Since our logo is symmetrical, we can mirror one half to create the other side. Add a mirror modifier, position it correctly, and apply it to finalize the mesh. Move the logo slightly above the plane to prepare for the next step. Here's where the fun begins. Add a new sphere to represent the balls that'll fill our logo. Scale it down to fit inside the logo's cavity. Position it above the logo, aligned properly. To make this dynamic, apply a rigid body to the logo and set it to passive with the shape set to mesh. For the sphere, set the rigid body to active and choose sphere as the shape. This ensures the sphere falls realistically into the logo. Duplicate the sphere to create a few more and test the simulation to see them pile up naturally. To fill the logo completely, we need more spheres. Add an array modifier to the sphere and duplicate it along the X, Y, and Z axis to create a grid of spheres above the logo. Once you're happy with the number, apply the array modifier. Move all spheres to a new collection called balls for organization. In edit mode, select all spheres and use Separ by Loose Parts to make each sphere an independent object. Set their origins to their geometry using Set Origin to Geometry so they behave correctly in the simulation. Now, let's tweak the simulation. Raise the spheres slightly higher above the logo to give them more falling momentum. Increase the number of spheres if needed to fully fill the logo. To prevent them from sticking, lower the friction value of the logo's rigid body to around 0.2 in the surface response settings. Duplicate the sphere collection for the second part of the logo, position them above the other half, and run the simulation. You'll see the spheres fill both parts beautifully, with some spilling over for a natural effect. Cache the simulation using Bake All Dynamics to optimize playback. Let's set up the camera for a cinematic shot. Add a new camera and press Ctrl plus Alt plus 0 to align it to your view. Adjust its position for a dynamic angle. Try a 35mm lens for a cinematic look or tweak the focal length for a portrait-style shot. In the output settings, set the resolution to 1920 by 1080 with a standard aspect ratio. Switch the render engine to cycles and enable GPU performance for faster renders. Set the world strength to 0 for a dark background, perfect for our studio setup. Split your viewport, one for the camera view and one for 3D adjustment. In the camera view, enable viewport display with a margin of 1 to focus on the final render area. Add a sunlight rotated along the Y and Z axis for dramatic shadows and duplicate it to the opposite side for balanced lighting. To make the spheres pop, add a spotlight with a high power, for example 1000 watts, and soften its edges in the blend settings. Load a gobo texture in the shader editor for the spotlight to create natural light patterns on the floor and background. Adjust the spotlight's power, for example 4000, and duplicate it for the opposite side to enhance the dynamic lighting. Start with the floor and background plane. Create a new material, set it to a light gray color and increase roughness slightly for subtle reflections. Add a noise texture with a color ramp to control randomness in the roughness for a textured look. For the background, duplicate the material and set roughness to 1 to avoid unwanted reflections. For the spheres, create a new material, add a color ramp connected to the base color and use the object info node's random output to assign random colors to each sphere. Link this material to all spheres by selecting them and using Ctrl+L to apply the material. Tweak the color ramp for a black and white aesthetic or customize it as needed. Switch to the compositor and enable use nodes. Add a contrast node to boost the cinematic feel, slightly increasing contrast and lowering brightness. Add a glare node set to bloom, adjusting the threshold to enhance light highlights without overwhelming the scene. Add another glare node set to ghost for a subtle glow effect, tweaking the threshold for balance. For a cinematic edge, add a lens distortion node with slight negative distortion and a touch of dispersion for a subtle RGB noise effect. Enable depth of field in the camera settings, set the focus on one of the spheres, and adjust the f-stop for a smooth bokeh effect. For an extra touch, animate the camera for a dynamic logo reveal. Set keyframes, moving the camera from one position to another for a smooth motion. You can also add particle effects for extra flair, but that's optional. Feel free to get creative with the objects falling into the logo. While we use spheres, you can swap them out for any mesh you like, such as cubes, complex shapes, or even custom models like tiny characters or props to match your vision. Run the final render to see your logo motion come to life. Tweak the camera path or add more effects based on your creative vision. And there you have it, a stunning logo motion created entirely in Blender. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned some cool tricks to level up your animation game. If you loved this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to DeepBlendArt, and drop a comment with your thoughts or what you'd like to see next. Your support keeps this channel going, so thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, keep blending and stay creative.